the momentum behind her shift in season 2.
Is this on Funimation, or is it still in production?
Yeah, we're still in production.
Okay.
But what we've done is we spent the first year writing the first 3 seasons.
Okay.
So what we did is we kind of wrote an overarching story, and then we went in and we filled in different episodes. And right now, all we're doing is making the first 8 episodes of season 1.
Okay.
So once those are made, we'll make them first in animatic form, and then they'll be created as finals. But we'll release a Blu-ray with all 8 episodes, and then special features on how we made it.
Sweet.
So that way, if we don't have the capital to finish the whole show, or we don't have the manpower, we can at least make that, and then basically create a tool for artists to be able to use and stuff.
Nice.
So that's kind of my goal with it. It's just something fun to do, and it's a really cool story, and I just want to kind of make something special. And like my dream with it is to like create I want to create a sandbox where people can write fan fiction.
That's really cool.
That's my dream, like to do with it, because my friends keep saying, oh, it's like Star Wars, or it's like this, and it's like, I freaking hate Star Wars because I love Star Wars so much.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars was my favorite sci-fi show, but the problem is Star Wars fell victim to its own
storytelling.
Yeah, because they forgot that it's magic wizards with laser swords fighting evil.
Yeah.
That's your archetype. And they got away from that, and they started making it about all this other stuff, and actually Jedi are this thing, and blah, 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 and they bogged it down with all this detail, and the detail doesn't matter. Like, there's no reason to make a Han Solo movie, because the whole point of Han Solo is, for the same reason the Han Solo movie failed, is why Jack Sparrow's movie failed. Because Jack Sparrow's not the hero.
No.
Jack Sparrow's the mysterious pirate. And if you tell the backstory of the mysterious pirate, he's not interesting anymore.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why they've never really been successful at making a Harley Quinn comic book. Because she's she's a cool character, but she's not, you're not telling an archetypal story.
You can only handle
anymore.
that character
it's like
in
no
small
one
doses.
wants to know about Hercules' best friend. You want to know about Hercules, right? And they keep trying to sort of deconstruct how stories work, and you can't do that. Like, you can't start pulling apart the seams of archetypes, because you're not, we don't understand them well enough to be able to do that. Like, we know there's something in our human DNA that identifies with the hero, the archetype, or the villain, or whatever it is, and you have to embrace that. And so with Robot Girl, like, every character represents some type of archetype, like the whole idea of her trying to live up to her dad. Even though she's amazing, that's an archetype. That's something everyone can relate with, and to some level, even if it's not their dad, it's somebody, right? And so, more thinking of it like the Japanese do, where every character is a symbol. The reason why this character has red hair, like the Japanese have a reason for it. The reason why this character has pink hair, like there's a reason. You may not understand it, but because it may be a cultural thing, but there's a reason. And one of the cool things I'm excited about in our show is we actually created our own archetypes. So one of the archetypes we created is what I thought was cool, is like a modern day archetype, is the conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
So like we have this whole group who's dedicated to conspiracies, and their whole, because they don't even know Robot Girl exists. They have no idea what's happening. They just know something's happening, and someone's covering it up. And no one realizes there's even robot battles going on. They don't even know if it's robots, because they haven't drawn any conclusions yet. And the cool thing about these robots is they're interdimensional. So when she destroys, she lops an arm off, it slams to the ground and then evaporates and goes back, vibrates back into its original dimension. So there's no evidence left behind.
That's cool.
So the whole idea is they keep looking for this evidence that doesn't exist. And people think they're crazy, right? Because they're chasing shadows. But that whole idea of watching these characters draw all of these conclusions from all of these anomalies, like we can totally identify with that in our own culture, and it's kind of becoming an archetype. So I kind of think it's cool to use that as a vehicle to sort of drive plot. I just think it's an interesting way to go. Hi guys, I'm Blake Shepard. How are you?
Good.
So he was asking some really good questions about like Japanese storytelling, and we were talking about Western shows trying to do anime, and I was talking about how the show that I'm creating, Robot Girl Chronicles, is sort of an homage to Japanese storytelling, and how we're breaking the show into distinct archetypes that everyone can identify with, but in a lot of ways are very distinctly Japanese, the way they operate. So we're taking the Japanese culture into account when we design how these archetypes interact with the world.
Okay.
Is that kind of like fairy tale theater?
Sorry. I'm very much new into like Japanese stuff.
So this is how I explain Japanese storytelling to Westerners. It's like you think about the Saving Private Ryan war movie, right? Like the war is going on, right? In an American story, at the beginning of the movie, the war has started, right? The war is raging. And at the end of the movie, the war is over,
Okay.
right? In Japan, the war is never over.
Okay.
In Japan, when the movie starts, the war's been going on for 100 years.
Oh.
And when the movie ends, the war isn't over. It's about the characters inside of the war. And it's about their individual struggles and their life goals and how they exist inside of the war.
Okay.
So that's the different dynamic between our cultures.
Yeah.
Is they're not worried about changing things. They're worried about changing the self.
Okay.
So it's almost like a snapshot into that segment?
Well, Westerners would think of it that way.
Okay.
Right? We look at it and we go, oh, well, they're not telling the whole story. But you're missing the point.
Yeah.
The story is not about the world around you.
Yeah.
The story is about what's going on inside of you.
How the world has affected that person.
Or how they have persevered in spite of the world affecting them.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, so in Japan, I'll give you a good example. I just got back from Japan this summer. And just to give you an idea of how different it is there, the culture is such that, you know how they have like the posters sometimes for like job fairs or something like that, where it'll have like a person with a clipboard and like someone with a hard hat and someone with like a lab coat on, and it's like,
They're so happy
find
to be
your
there.
future,
Yeah.
you know, your future starts today or something like that.
Yeah.
They had signs exactly like that, but their sign said contribute.
I like that.
So their
like
whole
that a lot.
idea is
Yeah.
when you go and get a job, you're getting it to help others. You're
Yeah.
getting it to help the culture. You're getting it to help the community. They're very nationalist like that.
Yeah.
And because everything you do in your life affects someone else.
Because it feels like culture, I guess here it feels like you have to go to college, you have to have a career, you have to do this or you're nothing.
Well, but you're doing it for yourself,
Yeah.
That's
right?
true, yeah.
And in Japan, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone else. And
Right.
then you reap the benefits of how much you contribute. So however much you
Okay.
give, you're going to get.
Yeah, 'cause
Right?
I
Because it's about you fulfilling your responsibilities
right.
and benefiting from taking on the responsibility to make the culture better,
Okay.
make the world around you better.
Yeah.
There's
You
almost
know.
more merit in that.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot to be said for it. You know, like we're like, oh God, divorce rates are so high in America and in Europe and stuff. And it's like, yeah, because we're only worried about ourselves. You know, I mean, imagine if we put aside, you know what I mean? Obviously, there's some terrible relationships. I'm not talking about like the 1% where someone's like beating you up. But you know, but there's times where there's conflict in people's lives, and how you deal with that defines you. You know, so they look at a lot of that, and a lot of times in Japanese stories, someone will die when they've achieved their life's goal. So like you'll see a lot of people who will die like protecting a character, right? And they're like somehow connected to this character, and it's like, no, you can't die, and it's like, no, I was meant to die to save you so you can go on.
Yeah.
You know, so those types of things those are the hard choices those characters make, right? To sacrifice themselves for the greater good.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good.
So that's the difference, right? But that's the thing that Western stories miss when you watch a show like Neo Yokio. It was on Netflix, you know, where you're like, why does this suck? It looks good, but it was from this very like trivial, materialistic, kind of cushy, mushy place. Like
Yeah.
there was no substance to it. There was nothing about
Very
those characters
superficial.
that was redeeming. There was nothing no redeeming qualities about those characters
Yeah.
because they weren't struggling. You know, they were basically characters with no struggle.
Mhm.
So those aren't interesting.
No.
So I always, my favorite thing to do is to throw more at my characters than they can handle, and then force them to handle it.
Right.
You know, so,
Here's the
Life, though.
Deal with it.
yeah. Well, and you know, the great thing about the Japanese culture and why I'm having so much fun writing Robot Girl is because no matter how much I throw at her, she has to take it because it's her responsibility to take it.
Yeah.
And she never questions it. You know, she never has a moment where she's like, you know, and this is a really good example. So, you know, you look at someone like Superman. Superman is the ultimate archetype. And the reason why these Superman movies that they're making keep failing is very simple. It's because Superman's archetype is a character who has absolute power, who, despite all odds of being an alien, of being an outcast, of feeling like he doesn't belong, he is not corruptible. That's why he works. That's why he's amazing. That's why everyone looks up to him. Because he's that absolute power. He's the one example of someone who can be king and have it not corrupt their soul. That's why he's great. And they keep taking that away from him. They keep creating these Supermen who are like, I don't know if I want to be Superman. I don't even know if I like humanity. I don't even know if I, you know, want to beat these guys because I kind of know them. It's like, no. Superman always knew what was right.
Mhm.
And that's what makes it good. And that's why he's such a great antagonist to Batman. Because Batman is the one who wants to do right, and he's willing to step into the darkness to do it.
Right.
So that's why they're such a cool pair, because they keep each other in check.
Mhm.
But you can't make Superman Batman where the dynamic doesn't work. Because then you just have two terrible people who are trying to be heroes.
With absolute power.
Yeah, with absolute power, and it's ridiculous. It doesn't work. It was an interesting twist when they tried to have Batman, like, take down Superman because he thought he was out of control. Like, it was an interesting try, but you're still getting further and further away from Superman. Because now in order to beat Batman, he has to be more brutal, right?
Yeah.
Or he has to yell out Martha, apparently, and then that just makes everything okay. Whatever. But, you know, but it's this, I think that, you know, as Hollywood fails, there's this need to try to reinvent everything and make it different and make it new instead of just sticking to what works and sticking to telling true stories. So that's my rant on.
Thank you.
It's simple.
Been such a mess.
You know,
with
and
everything they're putting
the
out.
biggest thing that DC's messed up on is they keep forgetting that they're Greek mythology. Marvel is soap operas.
Yeah.
DC is Greek mythology.
Where's the-
That's why they both work. And that's why they never cross paths, really. That's why you can like DC for one thing and like Marvel for another. It's just how it is. You can't make DC Marvel. The Flash is never going to fight Superman because they're completely different types of characters. Now, if you have a Gambit might fight a Wolverine.
Right.
And that might be interesting. There may be some dynamic you can put in there, but there's no. There you're warring with personalities. You're not warring with archetypes, right? Wolverine's not an archetype. He's just an angry guy with a mysterious past. There's no archetype there, you know. You know, Gambit's a Cajun with a mysterious past. You know, it's like. Because the archetype for them is their mutant powers. That's the archetype, the outcast, right? Who wants to do good, you know. So they're a little bit more of that, kind of what they're trying to do with Superman, I guess. I never really thought about it that way, but it's that the one with the superpowers who feels disconnected, but is trying to reconnect and can do good, right? So yeah, obviously you can tell I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because I wanted to make a really good show. I wanted it to make sense, and I've spent 15 years working in anime, and seeing all these great stories. I don't know if you guys ever saw Tanaka-kun. Did you see Tanaka-kun is Always Listless?
No, sorry.
It's a phenomenal show, and it's phenomenal because it's so boring. And it's not boring, but it's like, it's almost like the Japanese were like, cats are really popular online. We should make an anime where the lead character is a human cat. And he's as lazy as a cat. He never moves. He does as little work as possible, to the point where like he won't even eat because his fork is too far away from his hand, and he's like, no. But everyone is in awe of how listless he is, to the point where they actually want him to train them how to be so relaxed, because all these kids are always trying to get A's and be the best and work really hard.
Right.
And here's this one character who just sits there and he's like, that sounds like fun. It's brilliant. And there's even cats trickled throughout the show. You see like cutaways and there's just cats walking around. So they're hinting that he's a cat, but they never say it. He doesn't have ears, none of that. It's a very subtle nod to the cat culture online. It's really cool. I mean, and the Japanese do stuff like that all the time.
So do you do anything with like the concept of like a breaking point with Robot Girl?
Yes. So the way I'm organizing Robot Girl is going to be season by season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to kind of think past binge watching, because binge watching is the thing now, right?
Yeah.
So the way I want to write this show is the episodes are going to be 8 minutes or up to 8 minutes. I'm not really putting a time cap. Some of them will be 6, some of them will be 9, some of them it'll just be whatever it needs to be to get that episode done. But the idea is that once the episode ends, there's not really anything chronologically you're going to need to know to watch the next episode.
Okay.
So you're going to see Easter eggs in some episodes for other episodes that will let you know this happened before, that happened after. But that, coupled with the conspiracy shorts, which are these guys intercepting transmissions and trying to figure out what's going on, you'll see blips of what's happening to her inside of the episode.
Okay.
So like we have one coming up where they're watching this robot battle happen because they've been able to hack into this mall security system. And they see this, like, they're able to slow down the footage enough to make out these blurs of 2 robots going at it. Well, it's not 2 robots. What happened is in an episode before this, she's having a battle with this robot, who's this really funny character I made called Unagi Bot, which if you guys know, it's like an eel. So he's got these like crazy like laser eel tentacles. He's like, and he wraps his tentacle around her and he's electrocuting her to death. And just when she's about to die, her bracelets kick on and create a whole suit of armor for her. And then she's like gets supercharged and she's just creaming this robot to death. But she's also hyped up on the adrenaline of almost dying. So she like lets loose this rage that ends up unlocking this power inside of her that she's never felt before. And so the adrenaline of death sort of berserker modes her into this new level of power that she kind of likes more than she should. So there's all these little things that start happening because these bracelets have sort of unlockable potential. And the way I'm kind of explaining it is the bracelets seem like weapons, but they're not. They're conduits to unlock consciousness energy. So the premise of it is like essentially you wear these bracelets like training wheels. And then once you've achieved ultimate Super Saiyan-y berserker mode, like once you've achieved pure enlightenment of energy, where you can completely control your body through, without the conduits, they just fall off, and you are a super being. So like the idea is that it's this, she has these robots, these bracelets that are meant to fight robots, that's what they do. And whenever one of the robots touches them, they become infected with like almost like a robotic leprosy, like an interdimensional leprosy. So it starts eating away their bodies slowly and they just slowly deteriorate. So they're really, really potent, but they work when they want to. So, and depending on what robot she's fighting, they may react in a different way. So she doesn't always know what the bracelets are going to do. So the mystery of it kind of, adds its own anxiety.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So yeah, and it's kind of fun to play with that because there's that, and what led me down that path is you always see like, I always go back to Astro Boy, right? Like you see that like super confidence, or like a Mega Man. And it's like, well, what if Mega Man didn't know his gun was gonna work? Like, what if his blasters got jammed sometimes?
Yeah.
Like, what would that do to his personality?
Yeah.
How would that affect him as a hero? So I wanted to give her that imperfect power that is perfect. She just doesn't know how to use it.
Now is she like going to be like? Is she capable of like having relationships, like feelings for other robots? I guess like.
Yeah,
if there's-
she's not a robot.
Oh, she's not.
No,
Oh.
no, it's a bad translation from Japanese.
Okay, gotcha.
She's just a girl that fights robots from another dimension.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, so there's some interdimensional robots who have attacked.
Yeah, because like my mind went to like, what if her robot boyfriend touched the bracelet by accident and then she would die? That would be terrible.
Yeah. So no, she doesn't have that problem. She's just a normal girl from Kyoto
Oh, okay.
who just happened to get superhuman powers.
Cool. So that's where my brain went. I'm like, how would you just be so depressing?
Yeah, and there isn't a little interdimensional robot that lives with him, who's the one that he escaped from the slave ship with the bracelets.
Oh,
Or
okay.
and so he's living with the family now because his connection to the interdimensional robots has been severed.
Mhm.
But because he's interdimensional, he can just like zoom into a human. So
Okay.
yeah, we've been thinking about working a joke in because we've designed him, and we thought it would be kind of cute to have an episode where like he's just this robot form, and they're like, if you're gonna blend in, you're gonna need to figure something out with this robot form. And he's like, he looks at the TV and there's like a pop star on there, like a Justin Bieber-y kind of pop star. And he's like, how about this? It's like, you may want to change it up a little bit. And then he's like, and he has like glasses. It's like, how's this? Like, yeah, that'll work. So, but the idea is because he used that pop star as a reference for his phase shift, that like all the girls in school have a crush on him.
Right. Of course.
And he also is maybe the smartest kid in school. So, because he's getting all the highest grades.
Right.
So he's like head of the school council, which kind of pisses off Robot Girl because she wants to be the smartest kid in school. And she's like, you're supposed to be keeping a low profile. Like, what's going on? He's like, I am keeping a low profile. So there's a lot of fun stuff to be had in there. We even want to do like a little reverse harem episode where all the girls at school want him to tutor them. And so they keep bothering him, but he doesn't know how to really react to all this craziness. So it's pretty fun. But yeah, we've got a bunch of really cute episodes that we realized. The idea for me is just to touch on a lot of different themes. Like it's cool that she fights robots, but she doesn't need to fight robots every episode. Like it's all about building the world. Like I was telling you earlier, what I'd really like to do is just build like a sandbox for people to be able to write fan fiction.
Yeah.
And like be able to do their own thing with it. Just kind of create the world. Because the thing that always bugged me about Star Wars, and I'll leave Star Wars alone after this. I loved Luke's black outfit in Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought it would have been so much cooler. It wouldn't have been as good for toy sales. But it would have been really cool if the Jedi and the Sith both wore black. And you didn't know if it was a Jedi or a Sith until they drew their lightsaber. And if it was blue, they were a Jedi.
Right.
If it was red, they were a Sith. And the reason why I think that would have been cooler is they sort of made the Jedi these pacified little monks that never really talk or think or discuss the dark side at all. But if they wore black, you could have the idea that the Jedi are an order who has confronted the dark side, faced it, and rejected it.
Yeah.
So then you have this war between, you think you're so good because you left the dark side. You abandoned your true potential. And then you have these Sith who have embraced it. So you have this real struggle.
Right.
Because then the dark side is the mistress, right? The dark side is the seductress. And you have those who give in to the seductress and those who reject the seductress. And that is an interesting dynamic. Much more interesting than Jedi councils and all this non-diplomatic stuff that they did. Because what you do is you take it away from the political and you make it magical.
Yeah.
Because Jedi are wizards with laser swords. That's the point.
Pretty much.
That's the point. You don't care what seat Obi-Wan Kenobi held on the Jedi Council. Like, you really don't give a crap. You're like, where the hell did you get that laser sword, Ben Kenobi? Because I want one of them. What do I gotta do to get a laser sword? That's the thing. And they did that so well in the first 3, and then completely abandoned it. Because you never heard Palpatine talk about the Council in Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back. It's like, the Council will not be pleased if you don't take down Luke Skywalker. Like, it wouldn't have happened because it's not about that. It's about the archetypes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but did you watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars, all 6 seasons?
Yeah, but
that
again.
fixed a lot of the problems.
Yeah, but again, that's what bugged me about it is that the Jedi weren't powerful enough.
No, they weren't.
It bothered me. It's like, you're not that cool, Jedi. Like,
No.
you kind of blow. Like, I'm glad you're gone. And that's what made me angry at Star Wars, is I was glad the Jedi got defeated by the end. Because I felt like they were so corrupt and they made so many wrong decisions along the way. I voted for them to fail. And I hated that. I hated that Star Wars made me hate Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they didn't let you be a person. But like being on the dark side, you could be a person.
Yeah, that is kind of how it felt. It was very weird.
So do you have a target release date for Robot Girl, or is it just once you get there, you get there?
Yeah, kind of once we get there, we get there. But what I want to start doing, and the reason why we started working on the Arctic episodes, the conspiracy team, is because we want to release those for free.
Okay.
So the idea is we'll have, like, everything will be on robotgirlchronicles.com instead of streaming it on a Funimation. Or I've been approached by some people that want me to stream it, and once we get there, we probably will do some stuff with that. But for now, I'd like to just make it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really worried about making money with it right now. I just want to make it and just put it out there and just have fun doing it,
That's cool.
I mean, obviously, like, most of the money that we get through Patreon just goes directly back to the actors that I'm hiring to be in the show. And the goal is just to get enough money where I don't have to worry so much about making rent, so that I can just work on Robot Girl full time,
Yeah.
and then I can, like, really spit stuff out. But until I get to that point, it's just,
Rent is important.
it's like, yeah, I got to do regular work too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if all I had to do was work on this animated project and do voice work, like, that would be a dream. And I mean, I don't do that much voice work in a week. Like, maybe a month I'll have 8 hours or 7 hours of voice work. But that's spread out over a few weeks. So I mean, it wouldn't affect the animation schedule. It'd just be about planning it around it. Because I mean, dude, I get up every morning at 5:30. I get to the office by 6, and I work for 4 hours just on Robot Girl. And then at 10 or 10:30, I switch and do my regular work.
Okay.
And then if I finish everything I need to do on my to-do list for the day, then I go back and work on Robot Girl. So that's usually my schedule.
Wow.
And I try to do that 7 days a week, but sometimes I get burned out and I take a couple days off. I mean, if I don't do that, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Can't play Neverwinter forever.
I play Guild Wars.
Well, cool. Do you guys have any questions about voice acting or animation?
So how did you get into voice acting? Was it something you discovered along the way towards something else, or was it something you just were like, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I didn't even really know it was an option. I'd seen, being an artist, I didn't even really, I mean, when I was young, we called it Japanime. It was not called anime. Or Japan,
that
we
up
called
from
it
The
Japanimation.
Simpsons.
That's what it
Oh,
was. It was called
yeah.
Japanimation.
Yeah.
And I guess that was, it's like in the 90s, like 97, 98. I found a show called Akira, and I loved it, and it's incredible. It's probably one of the best animes I've ever seen. And then there was another show called Battle Angel, which now James Cameron's making a movie out of, because he bought the franchise. That's why it never really came out on DVD, because he bought the franchise to basically smother it so he could come out and be like, look at this show I created. And all these Avatar movies have been like, not the Airbender ones, but the blue Avatar people.
Yeah.
Those have all been screen tests for Battle Angel, because they want to make sure that the mocap technology is far enough along that they can do robotics and make it look really good. So now that Avatar has been successful, Battle Angel is the next one. They were going to make an Avatar 2 and then make Battle Angel, but I'm really glad they didn't do that. Like, we don't need another Pocahontas movie. Just
No.
Have you been to the Animal Kingdom part yet? The Pandora?
Yeah.
no. What is that?
It's,
It's like a part of Animal Kingdom that's dedicated to the world of Pandora, and it probably has one of the best rides Disney has made
Yeah.
in a
What?
It's
A lot of people
basically
say-
Harry
Yeah.
Potter,
Which
the
one?
Wizarding World of Harry
Wizarding
Potter for
World.
Pandora. You just feel so small there.
Whoa.
It's
It's like an
amazing.
Avatar theme.
Like,
Oh, it's that.
That sounds cool.
and the technology for the ride is unlike anything. Like,
Yeah, so I saw that. I saw Street Fighter, the animated series,
Yep.
which was cool with me because it had boobs in it. Hey, what? I was 12. I was like, whoa! Boobs! Animation boobs? I didn't know they could do that. But I got sort of into the style then. And I kind of mimicked it and incorporated it into my drawings. Like what we do, right? You see anime, you start drawing.
Like my dad.
But then I kind of just got disinterested in it and moved on and did other stuff, and I never really followed it because it was always really hard to find when I was young. So it was and it was always so expensive when you would find it. I mean, I think I spent $40 on that Akira VHS. Yeah. Because it was like imported from Japan, and the tariff was crazy, like $40. It should have been like 20. But yeah, so everything was basically double the price if anything was from Japan. But when I was 15, I started voice acting, or I started doing acting. I was in theater school, and it was completely random, man. I was in theater school and doing theater and theater design. So I would balance my time between being a theater student and then go and do tech. So we did scene painting, prop making, costume making, all that stuff. So we learned everything. Because I'd always kind of been a visual artist, and I'd always liked acting. Like I acted in church and stuff. Like we had church plays and things like that. And everyone always said I was good, so I was like, all right, I guess I'm good. So I got into theater school, and then I would just happen to be Shaggy one year from Scooby-Doo, and this company had an opening for a Shaggy that they needed for a mall. And I got into a company through that, doing costume characters on the weekends. For extra money, so I dress up like Batman or Power Rangers or Spider-Man or whatever. And one of the ladies I worked with worked at ADV Films and was just like, hey, they need guys with your voice range all the time. You should audition.
That's really cool.
So she gave me the number, and I just called, and it was a year-long wait for the audition. So I called when I was 18, and then when I was 19, I got the audition, went in, I did a good job, and they passed my name around to other directors. One of the funny things was that I had done a lot of costume characters like Spider-Man, Batman, Power Rangers, all this stuff. So they had a little resume you had to fill out, and I put all those things, all those characters on the sheet. And they thought I'd come from LA and I had done all these characters in a show somewhere. I'm like, yeah, when did you do a Batman? It's like, oh, I do it on the weekends. I'm like, oh, this is a little misleading. I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, no, I wasn't in Batman the Animated Series. So, but it was funny. But then I met Matt Greenfield, who was at my audition, who was the director of Battle Angel. So, and he directed I think he directed Evangelion. Yeah, so I mean, I didn't even realize, and I kind of had a geek out moment. I was like, oh my gosh, you directed Battle Angel. I love that show. They're like, yeah, he played Grishka. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Very cool. And he was like, And I'm like, okay, I should shut up. But yeah, so that's how I started, and I got lucky. I got some lead roles, kind of right out of the gate. I was in Chrono Crusade as like one of my first shows, and got cast in Mabarajo. That was my first lead, and did Gilgamesh. A few things. But it was hard. I mean, it was really different from theater because you're like the mic's this close, so you got to learn how to act this close, and like one of the things I've struggled with is sarcasm. Like when I was really young, being sarcastic was hard because I used my face a lot for my sarcasm. Now I'm just sarcastic all the time with my voice, and no one ever believes me when I apologize genuinely. Like, I'm so sorry. It's like, shut up, dude. You're not sorry. It's like, no, I am. I'm so sorry. You don't sound sorry. I was like, I know. I can't fix it.
It's the face. Face did it.
So I never apologize. It's just embarrassing. It's like I'd apologize, but you wouldn't believe me anyway. But yeah, so that's how I got started. And you know, I've made mistakes along the way. It hasn't all been roses and puppy dogs and poopy treats. Maybe not that last one. But yeah, like so. I mean, I made a mistake with Funimation back in like 2009. I did a show, maybe it was 2012. I can't remember, but it was in the 2000 mid kind of thing. But I did a show called Sacred Blacksmith, and they brought me up, and I was the lead. And I asked them if they would not call me in, like, could you only call me if you have like a bigger role? Because I had to drive from Houston to come up, and I was thinking like cover my gas. And they took that as, oh, he only wants to come if he gets the lead. So they just quit calling me. And I didn't realize that's how it came off because I was 22 and an idiot. You know what I mean? Like I was just trying to make sure I could cover, I wasn't going up for an hour, you know, driving 8 hours.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them years later and was like, hey, you know, I'll drive up whenever, I don't mind. Oh, we thought you only wanted leads. No, I'm sorry, that was my bad. Here's my new demo reel, and then like I've been working up there ever since. So it's just one of those things. But I mean, I missed like the Full Metal Alchemists, the Attack on Titans, and all that stuff. So when that started, like I wasn't working up there. So they brought me in on the newest season of My Hero and the newest season of Attack on Titan and all that. But it's like all the good roles are kind of taken. Yeah. But it's fine. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be a part of it. And I mean, I just love working. You know, I love working with all these people. Huh?
What about as far as One Piece?
Oh, as far as
One Piece?
One Piece? Yeah, I've done tons of stuff in One Piece.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sorry, that's like the one anime I've seen. What parts in One Piece have you done so far? Like
Tons of bit parts and monsters and fish people and all kinds of, you know, random. Have you seen that newest season where the guys are in like the hazmat suits on the island and there's that really creepy creature that keeps taking children or something?
I haven't gotten quite that far.
You got some catching up to do.
I do.
You have
I've
like
gotten as far as
600
whatever
episodes you
my-
have to
But
watch.
like one part of it is all ice, like
Yeah.
frozen, and the other part is fire.
I'm up to the part where like English dubbed is done. Like, so I have a hard time with subtitles.
Yeah, so I
pay
think
attention to the art more than what's said.
I think I have a few named characters, but I've been able to stay out of it enough where they can keep bringing me back just for like new random bad guys, and
Yeah.
whoever. So I just get thrown in and they're like, yeah, be this guy or be that guy. I'm kind of lucky because my range allows me to sort of sift between younger, spry characters and then older, you know, soldier guys.
Yeah.
I usually need to be in like a mix of guys that sound a little older than me, and I can be like the younger, older guy. But,
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, but yeah, lots of that stuff. I just did Darling in the Franxx.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Satoshi deserved better.
I know he did.
That came out of nowhere. Kokoro, what?
See, and I like when I first started doing the show, I was like, oh, like we got a little Ron Weasley action going on here. Like I thought he was gonna get the Hermione, you know, and it's like, nope.
That kid came out of nowhere. I forget what his name is, but it's like, oh yeah, we got to give this guy something.
Zorbe?
He was the. Oh, wait, he's
Zorro
the
was
short
like
one.
the short one.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what time it is?
6:20.
6:19.
Timmer meds?
Okay, yeah, make them remember. Yes,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you're an artist. I'm basically a freelance artist right now.
nice.
Now I draw anime and manga. That's the art style I've devoted my drawing to. But you mentioned earlier like how you have to like stay at your craft. Like you have to keep developing it. You have to keep growing it. And this is a problem I have. Like there's some days I go by and I'm like all for drawing. Like I'm just sitting there for hours. But other days like I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this because then I have to learn how to draw hands. I have to learn how to draw clothes, and I'm really not good at that. But I'm like, I want to make my own manga series and like self-publish it because I know this one girl who did it and she's a big inspiration. So, how exactly do you get past those mental barriers for like you're uncomfortable doing some areas and then you're like, no, I need to master this too because you gotta know all the areas in order to be a true master.
What I would say to that is give yourself some variation. So instead of just drawing characters, if you're getting sick of drawing characters, make yourself draw a still life. Because those like basic academic skills are going to be the thing that make you a really good manga artist. Because the one thing with those guys that they always harken back to is their anatomy and their perspective. And your anatomy and your perspective are your two biggest tools with anime. Because everything is extreme force perspective, and everything is anatomy understood to the point of being able to break the rules intentionally. Does that make sense?
Intentionally, huh?
Yeah. So you understand anatomy so well that you can start bending the rules of anatomy in order to please your character's look. Right? So using, like some characters have like a more prominent chest or like a longer lower back or like, there's all kinds like hands, like having different like long fingers, where you'll get those shots of maybe a character where for one scene they have really long fingers because they're accentuating something they're holding. Like things like that you see, like all those little details, that's what makes it amazing. So I would say, definitely a lot of life drawing. Do a lot of life drawing. Like if you're sick of drawing people, just draw your hand. And like make like a, you know what I mean? It's like make it funny. Like do something that makes you laugh. And then it makes it silly and you can keep doing it. But like, do you know who Jim Lee is? Jim Lee?
No,
Yeah.
unfortunately I don't.
So
Batman artist.
Yeah, he's one of the most famous comic book artists ever. So that Arkham Asylum, those Arkham Asylum
I
games,
played those games.
they base those games on his art style.
Really?
Yeah, from the Hush series. So he wrote Hush, or he drew Hush. I don't think he wrote it, but he gets up every morning and he draws hands, or he draws eyes, and he makes himself draw one thing as a drawing exercise before he starts working. Like that's how disciplined he is. And he's one of the best in the industry and he still does that every morning as a training. But he has gotten so good at hands and eyes, it's interesting for him to try different things with hands and eyes. You know what I mean? Like one of the best pieces of advice an artist ever gave me was one of my drawing teachers. He says, everyone is an artist. Everyone can draw. But everyone has 1,000 terrible drawings inside of them. So the thing you have to do is get those 1,000 drawings out of you as soon as possible so that you can get to the good drawings. So the idea is as soon as you've drawn 1,000 drawings, you can draw.
Okay.
That's the deal. What I do is I keep a sketchbook and I try to fill up 2 sketchbooks a year. That's my goal. Sometimes I fall behind because life gets tough, but generally I try to draw something, even if it's just my schedule. I try to put something in my sketchbook, you know, almost like a journal. You know, you can kind of even treat it like that. And you know, don't beat yourself up if you're feeling discouraged or you don't want to draw. Don't make yourself. You know, give yourself a break. You know, you don't have to kill yourself with it. But always remember that drawing. And I mean, I'm not sure where you are as far as like your anatomy skills and all that.
I'd say they're like moderate, like not the best, but they're decent.
Yeah. So what I would say is simplify.
Or bury it here.
You know, just make sure that you're focused on the shapes.
Here, right this one.
Yeah, so you've got a good idea of anatomy, I'd say.
Decent enough.
Yeah. So what I would say then is don't focus on making the drawings perfect. Focus on making the anatomy perfect.
Okay, so like arms, legs.
I'm saying instead of drawing a character, draw a gesture. Draw a stick figure.
Oh, just.
Draw a gesture drawing of the character and draw it 5 times. And see which one's the best. See which one you think is the best and figure out why you think it's the best. Okay. You know? Like everything, you know, I mean, if you ever look at like Da Vinci's paintings, like Leonardo da Vinci was not amazing because he could draw. He was amazing because of how he drew. He was amazing because he was the first artist that we know of to actually take the form into 3 dimensions. So his drawings weren't incredible. What was incredible was the little hashes that he put around the arm to infer that it was 3-dimensional. That had never been done before. That's why Leonardo da Vinci is an amazing artist. It has nothing to do with how pretty the drawings are. It has to do with the thought that it's 3D. That is incredible. So, and when you look at his drawings, they're even more complex than that because what he's doing is he's playing with lines. So the gesture is not, it's not, ooh, that's a pretty gesture. This is the arc, right? So what I would even say maybe that might help you, because it looks like maybe you may have a little trouble going, like letting your character stand naturally, where they look a little more relaxed, like they look very posed, which is fine. Especially for stuff like that where you want it to be kind of a game thing. But if you want them to have an attitude, they need to have a little bit of that slouch, right? Or they need to have a little bit of that swagger. So maybe what you could do is draw random lines, like a quick one, like, you know, and then draw a character along that line. And try to get that character to fit on it. And they can be in a weird Sailor Moon-y kind of thing. You know, but the idea is to push yourself, to push their anatomy to fit that flow.
Okay.
And put them in unnatural poses and try to make it look natural.
Got it.
Maybe a fun exercise.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out. This was really fun.
3, 2,
1,000 drawings. Huh?